Hello and welcome to Running, Getting on the Ballots. Before we begin our program today, I would just like to take a moment to thank our sponsor, the League of Women Voters of Manitowoc County. I would also like to thank our panelists for joining us today, Jamie Jackson, Jessica Backus, and Mackenzie Reed-Kadow. Unfortunately, Darian Kaderabek could not join us this evening. And I'd like to thank all of you for joining us, for watching us from home. If you'd like to get more involved in the conversation, please leave a comment or a question, and we'll answer as many as we can at the end of the presentation. So with that, I'll turn it over for introductions, and we can start the conversation.
Who wants to go first?
I'll go first. I'm Mackenzie Reed-Kadow. I'm the City Clerk and Deputy Treasurer for the City of Manitowoc. I have been with the city for a little over 5 years and have been working elections the entire time I've been with the city.
Okay, I'll go. Jamie Jackson, I'm the City Clerk and the Human Resources Director for the City of Two Rivers. I have been with Two Rivers for about 2 years, almost to the date. And previous to coming to Two Rivers, I worked for a couple smaller municipalities in Kewaunee County as a city clerk. So I've been doing election work for about 9 years.
I'm Jessica Backus. I am the Manitowoc County Clerk. I have been the County Clerk for 3 years, the Deputy County Clerk 3 years before that, and I'm also a Town Clerk Treasurer for the last 12 years. We're supposed to go right into it, I'm assuming. All right, so I can start if you ladies don't mind.
Go ahead.
Okay, so what we do at the County Clerk's office is we are responsible for publishing the Type A notice, which is a notice that tells everybody what is coming up for spring election. That's going to be published on November 22nd, and that will list all the contests and the incumbents, and I believe their term on that publication. Is published in all the local papers, and we do post it on the county's website as well. So that's our portion of it for running for election, notifying what's going to be up on the spring election.
Yeah, for the city, we publish a Type A2 with much of the same information, just what city offices are up on the upcoming spring election. So it'll be published the same date, and folks can start collecting signatures December 1st for any of those spring offices. So for the city of Manitowoc, for spring 2023, we'll have 5 aldermanic seats up for election. So districts 1, 2, 3, 7, and 10 will all be up for election this coming spring.
All right, City of Two Rivers will be doing the same type of thing, same posting, publication in the newspaper, and then we will also have aldermen up for re-election or new ones running in April. And we will have 3 up. None of our aldermen run by district, so they are all at large. So we'll have 3 people running or I should say we could have plenty of people running, but 3 open spaces for 3-year terms.
Yeah. So those are the cities. I believe the city of Kiel has aldermen that are up. Towns, villages all have either chairpersons, presidents, village trustees, town supervisors, constables. They're all up for spring election this year as well. They're always up on odd years, the town municipal offices. School districts, all the school districts have at least 2 to 3 members up for election every year. And I guess one of the main things that people need to realize are what are the qualifications for running for office. And you just have to be 18 years old. You have to be a U.S. citizen. You have to be or satisfy the residency requirement to that specific office. So like for the city of Manitowoc, like Mackenzie was saying, you have to live in that specific aldermanic district to run for that office. Jamie was at large, so anybody can run for those positions. It's not based on aldermanic districts. School districts, I believe all the school districts in Manitowoc County are all at large. So they can collect signatures or run for their school district as long as they live in that district. Same with municipalities. They have to live in that municipality to run for those offices. And the other main thing is you cannot be convicted of a felony.
So like I had mentioned before, for the city of Manitowoc, those 5 aldermanic seats will be up for election this coming spring. Every spring, the city of Manitowoc has 5 aldermanic seats up for election. They serve 2-year terms, so 5 every year. And then for the city of Manitowoc, we also have municipal judge as an elected position. That's a 4-year term, and that will be up in 2024. And then mayor is also an elected position, also serving 4-year terms, and that office will be back on the ballot in 2025.
All right, City of Two Rivers also has a municipal judge that we share with the Village of Mishicot, and that position was elected in 2022, so we will not have that on the ballot. Just to elaborate a little bit on the whole at-large situation, there was quite a bit of confusion in 2022's election because we had 2 races on the ballot for an alderperson in the City of Two Rivers. That was due to a resignation by somebody that had just gotten elected. So at that point, our council chose to appoint someone until a special election could be held. So that typically is the only time you'll be voting in 2 separate races. Otherwise, it is typically a 3-person opening. So each candidate or each voter on election day could vote for 1, 2, or 3 people to get in, because there's 3 spots open, so you can vote for as many spots as are open.
So should we maybe talk about, we've talked about all of the offices that are up. Should we talk about how people can file paperwork to get their names on a ballot? I'm sure that's probably one of the more intimidating or unknown parts of running for office. So there's just a couple forms that would need to get filed with the appropriate clerk. So if you wanted to run for one of the open aldermanic seats this spring, you'd be filing that paperwork at the Manitowoc City Hall with me. My office can certainly share that paperwork with you. It's also all readily available online. There's a candidate committee registration form that's asking really just for general information, a declaration of candidacy form, and then, of course, the signature pages where starting December 1st for these spring offices, you can go out and collect signatures from folks that live in whatever district you're running in to get yourself on the ballot.
How many signatures do they have to collect for you, Mackenzie?
For alderperson, it would be between 20 and 40.
Okay.
It depends on the position and the size of the municipality, so it won't be the same for every office across the board.
You stole my question.
Sorry.
Well, I was going to ask her the same thing. And Manitowoc is different than Two Rivers. We're smaller, so you might think that you need less signatures. But since our aldermen run at large, each person needs at least 100 signatures. So a little bit harder to get, more paperwork to go through, but just the same process.
Yeah, I think village offices and town offices are the same as the city. They have to collect between 20 and 40 signatures. And I know at the town level, I provide anybody that wants to run for a town office, I provide them a ballot checklist, a ballot access checklist. So it tells them exactly what they need to file and the deadlines that they have to file them by. The declaration of candidacy form, the registration statement, which we refer to as the CF1. It's your campaign finance registration statement. The declaration of candidacy and the campaign finance, those can be filed at any time after that office is done running from the previous election. It's the nomination papers that have to wait till December 1st to be circulated. And I know one thing I stress for nomination papers, make sure your heading is filled out correctly, because that could possibly not get you on the ballot if it's not completed correctly. And if anybody's running for office and they have questions, all the clerks I know are more than willing to assist and tell you what goes where on those forms. So.
That's a really good point, Jessica, too. Like, yeah, if you're watching this panel right now and you're like, I definitely want to run for office, you can file those, that declaration of candidacy and the CF1 tomorrow if you wanted to. You can come into City Hall or wherever and get that process started. And with having the signature pages completed, anytime somebody picks up paperwork to run for my office, I always encourage folks to turn those signatures in before the deadline so that we can review them and make sure that everything's filled out and that all of those signatures will be valid and count, because it would be such a shame for you to go through all of that work, collect your signatures, and have, 19 instead of 20 signatures because of a technicality or a misdate or something like that. So I'll speak for the two of you as well, but I think we're more than happy to help and answer questions and help you navigate the paperwork if you decide you want to run for office.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, one thing to note with that too is when people are getting their signatures, we'll tell you 20 to 40, or I'll tell you 100 or more. And the or more is very important because we have to cross-reference those signatures. I'm sure in Manitowoc, you can sign one set of papers because you can vote for one person. In Two Rivers, since there's 3 spots open, you can sign 3 sets of papers. But if I've got 6 people running, you can't sign all 6 sets of papers because you can't vote for all 6. We also verify to make sure that you reside in the district or you reside in the city as a whole, like in Two Rivers. And I can't tell you how many times there's probably 5 or so that are very close to the city limits and they're in the town or they're in the other city and we have to scratch those. So it's really important to make sure the people that are signing actually live in the district that's being voted on.
Yeah, the more signatures, the better, just in case you can. And I know, like for our town supervisory race, we have seats, so they can only sign one set of papers. Like the people signing the nomination papers, they may not realize that and sign the other person's papers as well. Whoever gets that signature first is the one that gets a signature. It gets crossed off the other person's papers. Mm-hmm. So yeah, if you can get them in before the deadline, which is January 3rd, it's best advised that you do, because we do check those papers very thoroughly and we let you know whether or not you are short or if you're good to go for the ballot access.
Can somebody who's running for office sign their own papers?
Can they, ladies?
Yes.
I would say yes. They can vote for themselves.
Yep.
I think I get that question every spring. Can I sign my own? Yes, you can. 19 to go.
Yeah. Yeah. Or they're usually the last one if they're like just short and they don't want to sign their own papers.
Right.
So, there's something else I was thinking of and I can't remember what it was.
Jumping the gun maybe a little bit and getting past the papers getting turned in. I get a lot of questions, especially when we know we're going to have multiple names on the ballot because they're all running in the same race, essentially. Whose name gets put on there first? And we let everybody know when we're drawing the names, and it really is as simple as us writing the names on a piece of paper and throwing them in a water jug and someone picking them out. So we make that public. We announce when it's going to be. We invite all the candidates, and typically some of them will show up, and it really is just the luck of the draw.
Mm-hmm. Yep, we do the exact same. We don't use a water jug. I think we use a cigar box, but other than that, same process. Invite all candidates, publish the notice of when it's happening, and yeah.
We invite if there's more running for that office, we invite everyone, whoever's on the ballot, to come and watch how they're drawn, just so they can know that everything is run correctly. Correct. So, yeah. One thing, the school districts, I think Michigan School District is the only one that has nomination papers yet. I think all the other school districts in the county only require the declaration of candidacy and the CF1, the campaign finance registration statement. So that's something different for the school board. Anybody that's running for school board, they only have to do those 2 forms. They don't have to collect any signatures.
I just wanted to, we had our first comment, a question about filing. There was a question from an Andrew. Is there any filing fee for these forms?
Nope.
No.
Okay. No fees on that. All right. So you're just free of charge.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay.
And I don't know how many people visit the Wisconsin Election Commission website, but if you do, they actually have a candidate tile or drop down, and it tells you exactly like how to get on the ballot. It provides the forms. There's even a webinar on there to show you how to fill out your nomination papers correctly and how to make sure the people signing your papers are doing their part correctly as well. It's very informational. I think it's only like 12 minutes.
And they have the ballot access checklist that you mentioned earlier, Jessica, too, out there. So the paperwork you need to file, the deadlines, when everything's in or needs to be in by. So yeah, that website's a great resource for anyone looking to run.
Yeah. And there's a campaign finance manual. So like if somebody does want to spend some money on their campaign, there's a whole manual on what you can't do, who you can accept contributions from, who you can't, how to file campaign finance paperwork if you plan on spending over $2,000 on your campaign. Just a whole slew of information.
I had something else to say, but it just...
I did too, and I forgot. We were talking a little bit when we were preparing for this about how much time a person can plan to dedicate to the position if they get elected. And I think that would vary greatly depending on which city or municipality you get elected into. And from my standpoint, I can say that if somebody runs for council member in the city of Two Rivers, it is a substantial time commitment. I was just trying to count up the number of hours and the number of meetings, and I would guess at least 4 to 6 meetings a month. And here it is a really good night if you're out of a meeting in 3 hours. So figure 25 hours a month maybe in a meeting. You really don't know. It depends on the time of the year too, how busy we are or how much is being discussed. But lots of hours spent in meetings, lots of hours collaborating with each other and figuring out what the city wants to do next. But lots of input from the city, and we must like seeing each other because we get together every week.
I know from a town perspective, in the town of Manitowoc Rapids, we have one monthly meeting. The chairperson supervisors, they do things outside the meeting as well. But I know like other towns, they have land use committees or zoning committees that they're part of as well for their town. So it is a little bit more of a time commitment too for the town. Village, I would assume, is the same way. They have 1 or 2 meetings a month. For the city of Manitowoc, Mackenzie?
Yeah, I'm sorry if you can hear my dog howling in the background. He thinks I've abandoned him. So we have 1 regular council meeting a month. Sometimes we have special council meetings if there's business that needs to be attended to more urgently. And then we have what we call standing committees. So we have 4 of them, and they meet monthly as well. And typically alders are assigned to or appointed to 2 of those standing committees. So at a minimum, you're looking at 3 of those meetings a month. And then, of course, whatever kind of constituent interactions you have, phone calls, emails, that kinds of thing. Those 3 meetings, I would say, would be the bare minimum. I know that there's a lot more involved than just attending those committee meetings. And I thought about what I had forgotten to say earlier. If you're wondering which district you live in, at least for the city of Manitowoc, there's a really neat interactive map on the city's website, manitowoc.org, where you can just type in your address and it'll pop up which aldermanic district you're in. And then you can always check and see if that office is up on any given election. And if you want to run, that's probably where you'd start.
So some other questions and things coming in. So what are some like the barriers or the challenges that you encounter when you want to put yourself on the ballot or run for office? Is there a reason that people aren't doing it, or something that you can like help them out with that? Or why do you feel people might be hesitant to do it, or like what barriers might be in the way?
I think the time commitment is a big factor.
I don't know this. I'm just guessing. I would imagine that people probably aren't really even sure where to start or how involved of a process the paperwork that you have to file is, and maybe just don't even like, oh, it's probably a lot of work to do. I would say that the paperwork side of it, I don't think is really that bad. It's just really a couple forms and then collecting those signatures, but it can come with a substantial time commitment.
Yeah, I don't really have anything to add. I mean, if people care about what's going on in the city, I would definitely recommend running for council. In Two Rivers, you're only one of 9, but you definitely get good exposure to what goes on behind the scenes and how things get brought up. As far as paperwork goes too, we try and make it as painless as possible. I'll take phone calls from people and they don't know where to begin. And of course, everything's online nowadays, and we'll make it as accessible as possible if you don't want to come in and see us. But if you want to come in and see us, we'll have packets ready to go, and we'll sit down and walk through it with you. And if you want to fill out the first page of that nomination papers to make sure you've got it right, we can look at that before you walk out the door and just give you tips on that. Sometimes people too question like, well, how am I going to get these signatures? Well, I think there's a variety of ways to do that. Old-fashioned door knocking and going door to door. I know a lot of people get them when they go out to eat or they go to the bar. Or the only thing I typically recommend is that paperwork either stays in your hands or stays with whoever is circulating papers for you, and you don't just place it on a counter at a gas station and walk away and expect to come back 3 days later with it full. Somebody should be actually getting the signatures versus you just hoping people sign it when you leave it somewhere.
Actually, you can't leave it anywhere.
Right.
So somebody has to be physically circulating it. I know when I had to collect my signatures for running for county clerk, I had to collect 200 of them. A lot of it was door to door, and that was during COVID. So that was kind of hard. But I live in a very nice subdivision where everybody's very friendly and they would come out but I also had friends that would circulate the nomination papers for me too. So that was a big help, was having friends do it, because then it wasn't such a daunting task. You have 10 friends that'll circulate one sheet. That's 10 signatures. You're at 100 right there if you have the 10 friends that do it.
Right.
So
yeah, 200 is a lot more daunting than 20 to 40.
Yeah.
I think just from what I received back in my office, I think the door-to-door tactic is an oldie but a goodie. I think that's a pretty effective way for people to not only introduce themselves to the folks in their neighborhood, but I think is a pretty successful way for most people to collect those signatures.
Yeah, it gets your name.
I think that's what a lot of people are doing.
Yeah.
All right. We have a question from Marilyn. Just want to talk about what are some of the satisfactions of serving as an elected official? What are some of what do they enjoy the most out of being an elected official?
I mean, I'm not an elected official, so I can't say for sure, but I think that local government especially, there's so much impact that you can see the work that you're doing. So, the higher up you go, state, national, it's harder to see the impact of the policies or the decisions that you're making, where at the local level, somebody wants a stop sign someplace, you have a meeting and you bring it to the committee and then the council, and a stop sign goes up at that intersection. You can actually see that. So I would imagine it's pretty rewarding to know that you're working on behalf of the community and the people that you represent, and you can actually see results from the work that you're doing.
Yeah. Well put.
I think another thing, at least if I were an elected official, and I think the three of us probably see it too, actually being involved, you really know what is truly happening. I mean, you'll go online, you'll go on Facebook or wherever, and you'll see all kinds of stories about, oh, well, they did this and they did this. But those people that are involved in the process know what's really happening, and they can help maybe shut some of that down or help explain to people that don't understand how things are working, why they're actually being done a different way and why it needs to be that way. So I think that'd probably be kind of a nice part of it.
Yeah. How the whole process works.
Yeah.
You have another question?
Just that there's been a few more, but just collecting signatures and just reaching out to people. Are there certain like restrictions, like you can't like go to City Hall and like campaign at certain places and things like that? If you could talk about just signatures in general, any other side rules or anything like that, or it's just a matter of just talking to people and just getting them to sign.
I mean, it's talking to people and getting them to sign. I think what is good for people, both signing papers and collecting signatures, is that signing someone's nomination paperwork isn't necessarily an endorsement of that person. It's really just getting that person access to be on a ballot. I think sometimes there might be some misunderstanding that, well, I don't want to sign this because I don't, know if I'm going to vote for this person. But so it's not really an endorsement of any kind. It's just the process to get that person on the ballot.
I know you can't campaign in government buildings is what I'm aware of. So like I can't, when I'm re-up for re-election, I can't collect my signatures at the courthouse because I'm there doing my job, and on county time, I can't be circulating papers. So if somebody works for a government entity, that's not, I guess it's frowned upon to do that.
Right. Okay. Let's see. We have another question in. Is there a minimum of time you must live at a location before filing candidacy paperwork?
That depends on the office.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Could you go into a little more detail about the specific offices, or if there's any rules with that?
Yeah, let me look it up here real quick. I have WEC up, the Wisconsin Election Commission website up.
Perfect. I feel like and this could be from like years ago, but I thought at least for like an alderperson, you just need to, like, you could be circulating your papers and not live there, because you're circulating papers in December and the election's not till April. So you just need to know that you're going to live there on election day. Jessica, maybe you can clarify if there's there's no time frame beforehand. Okay.
No.
Yeah, I knew it was on election day, but
yeah, the villages, village office, same thing, time of election, qualified electors for a town at the time of taking office. So they don't even have to be there on election day. It's when they would be, if they would win the contest, they would have to move in before they take office. School board, at large, at the time of filing declaration of candidacy. So they have to live in their school district before they can file candidacy paperwork.
there, we all learned something.
Yeah. Yeah, it's different for county, village, town, school district. It all depends on what the statute says.
I would say if you're thinking about running for a given office, the best thing you can do is contact whatever clerk is in charge of that election and ask those questions directly to them. And even if you ask a question, if you call me and you ask me a question that I don't know, I'll tell you I don't know, and I'll look it up and give you a call back probably the same day. But if you have any questions, your best bet is to reach out to your clerk, and they'll be again, speaking for you both, more than happy to answer your questions and get you whatever paperwork you need, and help fill it out, or help you make sure that it's completed correctly and get you good to go.
Yeah. And you can even, we have people call the county, my office, all the time asking about where they go vote or things like that. Same thing with paperwork. Who do I file my paperwork with? All we need is your address and we can tell you exactly who you would file it with.
Mm-hmm.
I think the question that was just asked was a good example too of how great the Wisconsin Elections Commission website is, because we all kind of had an idea of what that answer to residency might be for getting on the ballot. But Jessica found it in 15 seconds and was able to start rattling off the answer. So to somebody that's not familiar with that website, it might seem a little overwhelming because there's so much information there. But if somebody's really interested in the election processes and what the rules are, they are all there. So some way to spend your free time if you're looking for something to do.
All right. We have a question from Kathy just talking about public meetings, and if you feel that, like, if someone's interested in running for office, if they should come to more public meetings and kind of get that hands-on experience with how the city runs ahead of time and then start to get involved.
I think that's a great idea, just to kind of get an idea of what those meetings that you could potentially be attending and serving on that committee or council or board or whatever could look like. For the city of Manitowoc, for everywhere, the meetings are open to the public. Anyone can come. Most city of Manitowoc meetings do have like a public input portion where if they wanted to vocalize some things, there would be an opportunity for them to do that. Other than that, it's not like a participatory interaction. It would be more so for observing, but I would always encourage anyone who's interested to come to any of the public meetings. Like I said, they're open to the public. Agendas are published ahead of time, so you can have an idea of what subject matter that governing body would be acting on or deliberating or anything like that. So I think that's a great idea.
Yeah. That, or you can always go to that municipality's webpage and look at what their agenda items are and what their minutes from last meeting, and just kind of get an idea of what they all talk about and go over. I know last spring, all the county board supervisors were up. So when candidates were filing their paperwork in December, those that brought paperwork in, I would, invite them to come to the next county board meeting or the January county board meeting, so they could just get an idea, like you said, Mackenzie, of what all takes place at those meetings.
Yeah, we have pretty good participation too from anybody that's running for office coming to our council meetings either before or after the election if they lost, especially this last election in 2022, because between the two races we ended up having on our ballot for that special election, we had 8 people running for 4 seats, and they came to a lot of meetings and showed their faces and got familiar with the current council and who they could be working with. And some of them that didn't make it in still show up every week. So even though they didn't succeed on the ballot, they still are interested and they want to know what's going on. So
just to kind of cover again with the different elections throughout the year, if you could talk more like about spring elections versus fall elections, just the basic time frame of when these take place, and again, filing and things like that.
Okay, so spring election, you file paperwork from December 1st this year, December 1st to January 3rd. It's always the first Tuesday in January that paperwork is due by 5 p.m. And then that paperwork gets you on the ballot for the spring election potentially. If there's more than, say it's a vote for one contest and you have 3 candidates filing paperwork for that office, and they've all gained ballot access, well, then you're going to have a February primary. And this year, February primary is February 21st. So 2023, usually in odd years, there's only the 2 elections. Potentially just 1 election, but there always seems to be a primary in February. So we always plan for 2 elections. like this year, even years, you always have your fall general election and then your August partisan primary. So those contests that are on those ballots, those are more county and above offices. So county, state, federal. So anything county would be filed with my office. State and federal or state offices or state paperwork would be filed with the Wisconsin Election Commission, actually. Not too often do we have municipal contests on the fall because they are partisan. So that means you're running with a specific political party. The other thing that could potentially be on your fall ballots are school district referendums or just other referendums. I know there's a couple municipal referendums up for November, but mainly school district referendums.
I think Jessica brought up a really good point about the partisan piece. At least for the city of Manitowoc, all of our offices are nonpartisan. So when you file your paperwork, you don't have to register with any political party or anything like that. There's no party affiliation listed next to your name on the ballot. They are truly nonpartisan offices.
Exact same thing in Two Rivers. So
Yeah,
that
spring are
question comes up a lot.
nonpartisan. Yep. And that time sometimes makes people, I guess, feel more comfortable running for a spring office because not many people feel comfortable putting a political party next to their name sometimes.
We need a question.
Yep, sorry. Going back. Is there just any more advice that you can give about just filing paperwork or just kind of getting everything together, just crossing all the T's, dotting all the I's, just for people just getting started in the process? Anything that you see that where there's might trip up or just any way you could help them out?
I think the best place to start would either be to get in touch with your clerk or go on to that Wisconsin Elections Commission website and find what we've referenced a couple times, that ballot access checklist. That is really, it's really a straightforward, literal checklist of the items that you need to do, the paperwork, the different forms that you need to file. Oh, thanks, Jessica.
That's exactly it.
That is it. It has your deadlines on it. It has signature requirements. So we'll let you know what office you're running for, how many signatures you need to collect. They reference the form names that you need to fill out. So if you have that checklist, you can just in a Google search engine put, okay, Wisconsin Elections Commission form CF1, and I'm sure the first thing that pops up is going to be a fillable PDF for you of that form to fill out. If anybody wanted to run, also if they contacted me or stopped in City Hall, I'd be happy to print the forms out for you and kind of line by line go through what information's needed. Again, with the filing paperwork early, I think that's a really great thing to plan for, because once the paperwork comes in, when people drop their paperwork off into City Hall by me, I usually ask them to stay until I've kind of reviewed everything so that I don't have to chase them back down or call them or have them come back in to fix something. So the sooner that you can get that paperwork in, the sooner we can review it and make sure you've got everything that you need. And, if there's something missing or incorrect, we'll absolutely let you know and say, hey, this is just what you need to do to make sure you're filed. And like I think Jessica said earlier, we'll let you know when you are good to go, or if you're not, or if we had to, if somebody, if you had 21 signatures and 2 people had already signed paperwork for another candidate, we'd give you a call and be like, hey, you need a couple more signatures because we had to cross these ones out for reason X or whatever.
I think what you just said there is a really good point. I don't think anybody needs to worry about dropping off papers and us not looking at them until after the deadline, and you not having, like, us not notifying you that you don't have enough signatures or something like that, or if something's missing. We're here to help. We're not going to look at something and be like, oh, so-and-so forgot to put this one thing in here and now this whole sheet doesn't count. we're going to do what we can to make sure that you're getting everything turned in appropriately. We want people to get their name on the ballot. So
Mm-hmm.
We get excited when we get paperwork. Means we won't have a vacant office.
right. Makes election day a little more exciting too if there's actually a race and not just people on the ballot that have no competition. So
speaking of that, what does happen when there's a vacant office if no one chooses to run or if someone doesn't run again? How does that process work?
All the write-ins are counted, and then the most with the, like, say Joe Smith, if he's an actual person in your municipality, gets the most votes, he gets called and says, hey, do you want to take office? So
that doesn't happen that often though, does it?
No. I can actually tell you it does happen though, because it happened to me in a municipality I used to work for. I did not work there any longer, and I got written in on a vacant council member race.
And you won?
Yep.
And did you decline it then?
Nope. I sat there for 2 years.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So
oh my gosh,
got to see both sides of the table there.
That is a fun story.
Yeah. I mean, so you definitely get to see everything that goes on in city government, and it's a different perspective when we're used to doing this. So
yeah. One thing, if somebody, as soon as you have the intent to run and you say that you're going to run, you need to get that paperwork, the campaign finance statement at least filed with your municipal clerk. It's the law. So that's one big thing is you say, hey, guess what? I think I'm going to run for this. Get that paperwork in. You don't have to get the signatures if you change your mind, because then you won't be on the ballot. But as soon as you form the intent to run, you need to get your paperwork in.
Yeah. That's another really good point too. If you are watching this and tomorrow you come to City Hall, like, yeah, I'm running for alderperson for sure. You file the declaration of candidacy and your campaign registration form, and then December 1st rolls around and December keeps happening, and you're like, you know what? I don't really want to collect signatures. I don't want to do this anymore. That's fine. Nothing happens. There's nothing you have to do to not get on the ballot. You're not turning in your signature pages. Takes care of that for you. So even if you're thinking about running and you file that paperwork right away, that doesn't lock you into anything. Yeah. Now on the other side, if you turn in your signatures and you've gotten ballot access, and then after the fact you decide, oh, I don't want to do this anymore, unfortunately, you are on the ballot and there's no way for us to take you off.
Yep. If you win and still don't want it, you can decline the position. But if you're running, we're more than happy to take you. So, and one thing is too, if somebody, doesn't realize that there was an office that they wanted to run for was up for election, they do have the option to file as a registered write-in. So this would be anybody after that January 3rd deadline that didn't file any paperwork. They could file their declaration of candidacy and campaign finance with the clerk and become a registered write-in, which means if there's enough candidates on the ballot for the position, only your name would count as a write-in name. It wouldn't be on the ballot, but your vote, like anybody that wrote you in, you would still get that vote.
A few years ago, the city of Manitowoc, we did have an open aldermanic seat, and nobody took out papers or nobody filed papers to run for that office. So there was nobody on the ballot. And then we did have someone run as a registered write-in. They won and took that office and sat their term. Mm-hmm. You have a little more time to file if you want to run it as a registered write-in. That paperwork would be due noon on the Friday before the election.
Yeah.
Okay. We just have a question here about if you're voted into a position, let's say alderman, are there any restrictions about holding other government offices? I'm sure that's very specific to which position you hold. And in conjunction with that, can you run for multiple offices? And let's say, I hope I win one. or file for as many as you'd like. If you could discuss that, please.
You can. Yep. You can. If, say you are in a town where you have a chairperson, a supervisor seat number 1, supervisor seat number 2, you could file paperwork for all 3 of them and then be on the ballot for all 3 of them. You'd still have to collect the same number of signatures for each seat. You can't make photocopies of just one set of paperwork. People have to circulate all different sets for each contest you're running for. And if they win all 3, they pick one and decline the other 2. And then the town board, as my example, would have the ability to appoint the other 2 positions.
And you can definitely serve on multiple bodies at the same time. So if you wanted to run for alderperson and you also wanted to run for county board, we have an alderperson right now who both serves on the Manitowoc City Council and the Manitowoc County Board.
Yeah.
So do we.
Yeah.
So I think it seems pretty common. I've seen it quite a few places. So.
Mm-hmm.
We actually had a county board supervisor who is also a school district or school board member. A lot of meetings.
Right.
All right. So we'll. It looks like we're at the end of our questions. So we'll give everybody just a couple more minutes, see if there's anything that they else want to post. If there's any last minute things you'd like to share with the public, and again, any other recommendations or anything about upcoming elections, feel free to do so. If you don't have any more questions, we will go from there.
Well, I'll just say thanks to the library and the League of Women Voters for putting this on and putting this out there. I think anytime we can talk to the public about elections or anything like that is always good. And I would just reiterate again, if you have any questions about running for office or about elections or anything like that, reach out to me, reach out to your municipal clerk. I know for myself personally, I'm more than happy to take phone calls, have people stop in, answer questions. I like talking about this kind of stuff. So, and I would say if you're thinking about running for office, I don't know that like the paperwork and getting on the ballot is as intimidating as it might seem. The forms themselves are quite simple. Again, when you're talking aldermanic positions for the city, you're looking at 20 to 40 people that you'd have to get signatures from. It's not a super tall order. So if you're thinking about it and you have any reservations, reach out and be happy to answer your questions.
Yeah. I think the most daunting piece of paperwork is that campaign finance registration statement. It just looks so overwhelming, and it's really simple. And if you have any questions, just give us a call.
All right. Well, thank you all very much for attending this program and filling us all in on how to run for office. We appreciate your time and all that. And again, if you have any questions, call your local clerks.
Yep.
All right. Well, thank you very much for tuning in, and everybody have a good evening.
You too. Thank you.
Thanks. You too.
Thank you.
Bye, guys.
Bye.
Bye.